So what is the proper way then, like if you have a business website, what is the proper way of, I guess, doing backlinks so that your page can rank properly?
You're talking about internal links?
Yeah, like off-page SEO. Like, is it different ways of trying to rank your website, whether you have just like like a blog versus a business website?
No, I don't think so. I mean, in fact, probably the most effective business website is one with a blog because it's a perfect place for you to continually add content, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously those first several lessons or that first whole series of mine, doesn't touch on a blog because everybody thinks of WordPress as a blog
Right.
engine, whereas really it's just as easy not to use it as a blog engine and to use it for a series of, essentially static pages. And that's what
Okay.
lots of small business people want is a series of pages that they can have access to and edit themselves, but are nevertheless, don't change a whole bunch. But in terms of, getting Google's attention for your
Mm-hmm.
site, whether it's on page or off page, there isn't really any difference between whether you're doing it as a blog or you're doing it as a business site, with one exception. And this isn't on page or off page SEO. This is site structure
Mm-hmm.
and semantic URLs. You have a choice of how you want to organize your posts. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we take a look at one of my posts, for example, and just look at this one here, I have a site structure that places this lesson 16, part 1, understanding thesis filters, under a hierarchical category structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a category called video tutorials, under which is a category how to make an e-commerce website, under which is a
Mm-hmm.
category WordPress comments as product reviews, and then this is inside of that category. And
Mm-hmm.
and so you have, looking at my categories here, let's see, so there's the big category, video tutorial series, and then the next step down is how to make an e-commerce website.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next step down from that, in this case, was lesson 16, which is in there someplace. But it doesn't really matter. It could even be just lesson 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the name of the post. And
Mm-hmm.
so because this is a blog post, this is not a page. And so you have this, if you have a hierarchical category structure, what you have then is the opportunity to have this semantic URL structure. So all of my video tutorials are under a category called video
Mm-hmm.
tutorials. And then each one of those branches off of another subcategory of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that subcategory branches again. And so you've got this, this directory structure, or it's not really a directory structure, but it appears to be a directory structure or a site structure that follows the category hierarchy. And that is something that is a little bit more explicit on the blog side, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
the other way around. It's less explicit on the blog side than it is on the page side. When you
Mm-hmm.
look at pages, pages themselves are organized as pages and subpages. And so if we come down here again, here's a page, video tutorials. Then
Mm-hmm.
here is a subpage of video tutorials that is start building your website here. And then here's another subpage, which is lesson 1. And so if we take a look at that, we have video tutorials as a page, as a top
Mm-hmm.
level page. Start building your website here as a subpage of that. Lesson 1, register your domain as a subpage of that. And again, you have this semantic URL structure. But it's a little bit more obvious because it's, one page is a subpage of another page.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the sort of a mental leap on the blog side is to have your site structure on the blog follow a hierarchical category structure.
Okay.
Because if you just
Okay.
have blog and then
Mm-hmm.
blog post name, right, that doesn't really have any structure to it. right? Just one blog post after another. And if you don't use the categories as a basis for organizing it,
Mhm.
then you just have a long string of potentially related or unrelated posts. And that's not all that great really for SEO, right? Because
Mhm.
Google wants to see a well thought out site structure and a rational, organized site structure rather than all of your pages on the top level or all of your pages on the second level, but having a hierarchy.
Okay.
So that's the one place where it's different from, that's the one wrinkle that the blog brings into it, is to use some kind of a category hierarchy.